All right, let's talk about it. What I talk about when I talk about running. This is a book by Haruki Murakami, a famous Japanese novelist. It's kind of a running memoir slash just memoir on its own. And why am I talking about this book right now? There's two reasons. Number one, our business school is running a reading club. And this month, I'm fortunate enough to be one of the guest speakers for this book. And so I'm really enjoying rereading this book and revisiting it with my classmates. Number two, it was raining this morning in Shanghai. I went out for a rainy run. It was about 9 kilometers. And after running, I realized that's kind of a coincidence because in this book, Murakami talks about how he used to run 6 miles or just over 9 kilometers every day. I really enjoyed that coincidence and I thought, hey, let's talk about it. So, what is this book about? Before going into it, I think it's important to just establish who Murakami is as a novelist or as a creative force, because this is a memoir. So I don't think it makes any sense to read this book unless you are familiar with his other works. I've read a lot of his novels, and it's hard to really classify what they are. Sometimes I think of them as magic realism. Other times I think they're just science fiction or romances. But what I do know is that in all of his novels, the hook is speaking about the human condition, relationships, love, and all the interpersonal stuff that makes us go round. There's something very interesting and universal about his writing. Although I'm reading it in English and it's translated from the native Japanese, I think his novels can be enjoyed regardless of what culture you're in. It's just speaking about the human condition. And so I've read a whole bunch of his works like Kafka on the Shore, Norwegian Wood, other famous works of his. And it's also very interesting because I was definitely not a fan of Murakami at the beginning. When my friend introduced me to his works a few years back, I tried reading one of his novels and I just gave up. But fast forward a few years later, I might have matured or maybe I was in a better mind space. Whatever it is, I ended up devouring a whole bunch of his works over the next couple of years. And I think that really speaks to where you have to be to really enjoy a creative work. This is kind of an aside, but I really feel like whether it's a book, a movie, or a piece of music even, you have to be in a particular time and place to really enjoy and understand it. And so that's kind of what happened with me and Murakami. I became a big fan of his over time. Getting back to this book, it's a memoir. So if you're not familiar with his works, then it's very difficult to get into because this is really him talking about his creative process and even how he became a writer. He started off running a small bar in Japan and transitioned to a writer. And so here he talks about not just the running part, but also his entire discipline and setup, changing his schedule to wake up early so he could write every day, and kind of a workmanship that is very admirable. And so I think you can enjoy this book as a runner, and you can just enjoy the book as someone who is a creative person. I would also say that if you're a hardcore runner and looking to get tips from this book, you will be disappointed because the marathon training methods that he alludes to, that he went through, doesn't actually work all that well. So if you're looking to do something like hardcore training in 2024, this may not be it. But if you're just looking to be inspired by someone who is a master of his craft and just want to get inside the mind of a creative force, then I think this book will be very interesting. It's also a very short read. You can likely read it over 1 or 2 days. It's not long at all, but it's definitely great if you're a fan of either Murakami, his running, or the creative process, or ideally all three. Have you read the book? Let me know if you've enjoyed it.